Welcome to Nasdaq TradeTalks. I'm your host, Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Joining us for this segment, we have Isvary Sivalingam. She is Southeast Asia lead at the UN Better Than Cash Alliance. We're here at the Singapore FinTech Festival to discuss responsible digital payments for all. It is great to have you with us, Isvary. Welcome to Trade Talks.
Thanks for having me,
All right,
Jill.
you got it. Give us an overview of the work that you're doing with the Better Than Cash Alliance.
Okay, so the Better Than Cash Alliance, we are a partnership of governments, corporates, and international organizations that is based at the UN, and our goal is really to accelerate the transition of digital payments from cash and ultimately to help achieve the Sustainable Development Goals.
Tell us about some of the principles for responsible digital payments and why that's important to advance.
So the UN Principles for Responsible Digital Payments were launched in 2021 in the aftermath of COVID, and it's really a framework centered on building trust, mitigating risks, and ensuring that digital payments actually reach everyone and we can build an inclusive economy. It's important the time at which it was launched because I think that's when we saw also greater appreciation and growth of digital payments, but we felt like it was time to also focus on the risks that brings, and also to ensure that this growth includes segments of the population, especially women who tend to be underserved by digital financial services. It also ensures that there is a greater user lens to the development of digital financial services and products, and to ensure that these new technologies that we're seeing like AI also are fair and serve the needs of underserved customer segments and those that might lack familiarity with formal financial services.
Well, let's talk about that more when you think about extending the use to underserved, like micro merchants, and to your point, especially women. Why is building trust so important to these segments as they're looking to build micro economies and leverage digitized payments to be able to execute on that?
So we've just recently looked at, we've done a study with ASEAN, which as you know is a group of 10 countries in this region, 600 million people, and no signs of slowing of economic growth. When we talk about digital payments growth, there's been huge growth. There's been also huge rollout of low-cost channels for digital payments through the QR, the national standardized QR payments. And micro merchants are particularly important because they are not only the lifeblood of economies in this region, but they're critical acceptance points for digital payments. These are the points that all of us go to buy small things on a daily basis. So building trust for this segment and ensuring that they see value in digital payments is really important for overall growth of digital payments. And ensuring that ultimately digital payments reach everyone across the population. What we're seeing is really interesting, I think, compared to maybe 5 years ago, where it was a mix of skepticism and curiosity around digital and some of these channels. There is a much greater appreciation for the value of digital payments. The not so good news is that many of these users are still struggling with some of the risks associated with digital financial services. So risks around data privacy and protection, transparency around fees and pricing of digital payments. And coupled with this is a lack of recourse.
Right.
So I think we have to accept that with any sort of, exponential growth, we will see issues and risks. And that requires also an adequate recourse mechanism in place, and that's not there today. And over time, if these things are not addressed, we are likely to see an erosion of trust. Right. And ultimately, the reversion back to cash is quite easy. And what that means is that there will always continue to be a segment of the populations which do not have access to digital, do not trust digital, and then cannot benefit from what the digital economies and the opportunities that present for them. So that's really what we're working to address, to ensure that these risks are mitigated. And happy to speak more about that.
Well, let's talk more about the role of partnerships with government and financial institutions in fostering more responsible digital payments and inclusion across the ASEAN region. You said before 10 countries, 600 million people. That's a lot of numbers to wrap your head around, and all those microeconomies that can be built from such a young, vibrant demographic is really quite extensive. So how do you see that role of partnerships between government and established financial institutions helping to foster this?
Yeah, so these are probably the two most important actors in the ecosystem. It is an ecosystem play, and everybody has a role in ensuring this responsibility that we're talking about. Governments play a critical role because central banks, the regulators, are not only important for ensuring that there are some minimum standards of consumer protection, regulations are in place to ensure the healthy growth of the sector, and in the context of instant payments, which we're seeing a lot in emerging markets, they have direct oversight on a lot of these instant payment systems. So they have a very critical role. On the other hand, financial institutions, be it banks or fintechs, they're the ones that face the customers. Mm-hmm. They're the ones who have the relationship and ultimately hold that trust with customers. So when there is a failure, when transactions don't work, customers need to know who they can reach, and if there is a channel to reach the providers, that needs to be done in a timely, and responsive manner. Yeah. So I think these sound like very obvious measures that need to be in place, but I think there's a lot more that we can do, and issues like fraud is top of mind, not only for regulators, but also the financial institutions. And I think we need to look at protecting customers as more than just a compliance issue, but something that also is contributing to business metrics. Ensuring that customers trust your products means that they stay on your platform for longer. It means that there are more opportunities to offer them other products that they need. So this is how I see different players working together.
All right, Isvary, appreciate the insight. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks. Thanks for joining me for the Singapore FinTech Fest. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.